Well, hello, this is Katy Huff with Katy Huff Ministries, and you are listening to Setting Yourself Free podcast. So I just want to say thanks for listening to this episode, and that you can find me at www.katy-huff.com to learn more about my book that I've written, the coaching, my courses, and retreats. And you can follow Katy Huff Ministries on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for more encouragement and stay up to date on all things happening with Katy Huff Ministries. So I am just absolutely blessed and grateful and excited for you all to hear from my dear friend, Benita. And she is here with me today. And I am excited for her to be able to tell you what she is setting herself free from. So Benita, we ask every guest on our podcast, what have you set yourself free from?
Well, I believe I've been able to narrow it down to setting myself free from not the thinking of not being enough. And I've seen that show up several times in my life. And in fact, it's showed up in this last year. So it's something that I continue to work on.
Can you share what that looks like for you?
Absolutely. So, I can think as far back as even being a kid and being in high school, and even as after I graduated and was doing accounting work and so forth, and just looking for that approval from my father, that I'm doing a good job, that I know what I'm doing, and that he would be proud of me. And that it weighed on me for a lot of years because I felt like somehow I let him down in some fashion. That could have been possibly because I changed religions when I was 18 years old. I mean, there's just a number of things. I didn't choose a great spouse, and that I'm sure that was a disappointment for my mom and my dad. And there was just all of these things that accumulated that I took on myself, rather than just accepting that, well, this is my life, and if anybody doesn't, you put yourself in a situation where their opinions are really important to you and really make a big part of who you are. And then, so when that piece is missing, then you feel like something part of you is not right or is missing. So, that's one example. Another example is when my kids were younger, and I just kept looking for, I was divorced. I was raising 4 kids by myself and kept looking for that man that was going to rescue me, or at least be that, like, I didn't need him to rescue me financially because I was doing quite well for myself. I mean, I had a job and I always worked and I always provided for my family, but I wanted that partner, that was going to help me. Much like what you found, a person that was going to be spiritual with you, is going to, help you raise your family, be a good role model or whatever. And I can remember nights just praying and saying, please, Heavenly Father, send me that person that's going to help me raise my boys and my daughter and my oldest son, that's going to help me with this. And, and unfortunately for me, I really just wasn't listening to the answer because I didn't like the answer. And the answer was, you got this, you can do this, you can raise them. And, that's how it ended up, was that I ended up doing that. So, hey, guess what? I was able to do that. And they're great kids, and I learned some hard lessons along the way of, really, really what happens when you don't listen to that still small voice that says to you, stop, number one, just stop and listen. And I've got you, and I kept thinking, but you don't have me, I mean, like, I was doubting. And it's interesting because we got some bracelets at your retreat a couple of years ago that say faith over fear. I've not taken this off since I've gotten it. So, because it's a constant reminder for me. And there are days that I just have to look down at my hand and go, okay, faith over fear today. And that's really what's brought me through a lot of this. Other events that happened were, my daughter, when she moved away, and then I felt like I wasn't enough because I wasn't being a good enough mom to help her through her pregnancy and all of these. I mean, there's just so many areas of my life. Even in my work, I do tax accounting work, and there have been times that I'm like, yeah, I'm really on my game, and there's other times that I'm like, oh my gosh, are you in over your head? So it really is interesting. Basically, how the enemy, how Satan can really just infiltrate and get me talking all that negative self-talk to myself and about myself. And then all it does is drag me down. And then you get sort of down in that little depression and you're going, okay, there's only one way back up. And that's back to ignoring those voices and ignoring that talk and focusing more on, what God has done for me. And that's when you start focusing on the gratitude, things that we learn together about how gratitude can pull you out of those things. And, you may not be getting the exact answer that you want right now today, but you can still take a look at that and say, okay, how is God blessing me like right now in this moment? Right. And I've had to break it down to that sometimes.
Well, and sometimes you do. Instead of, people say, well, you start every day new, which is true, but sometimes it's every hour, every minute, every second. It just depends on what the situation is. And the blessing is that he never leaves us or forsakes us. He is always with us, even in our darkest days and our darkest moments. He'll never leave us or forsake us. And that's what I think is such an important thing for all of us to remember. And then the other thing, obviously, is, I don't know if you remember me talking about the 3 Ps that I coach people on. Is the 3 Ps are you pray, you pause, and you don't do anything until you have peace in every decision making. And even with reaching out and wanting to hear that small, still voice that you said, you hear it when you pause and get quiet, and then having that peace, and you do hear it. So that's awesome. And you're not alone in all of these things that you've shared so far, in the sense that there's a lot of women that have had to raise their children by themselves and have been looking for a man and a partner to support you. And God knows I know that with my book being Unmasked, the power of courage and vulnerability to live free, because I was looking for love in all the wrong places. And like you said, I'm grateful that I finally realized that God's plan for me, as it is for you, is much bigger than we could ever imagine. And so I'd ask you, Benita, can you share the sequence of events that you went through to be set free?
Well, a huge part of it, my faith is huge, and I'm a very active member of my church. So for me, it's the one thing that tethers me. It's why I go every Sunday, because I have to have that input of, constant reminder. One of my favorite poems is the Footprints poem, where that's what reminds me. I think of that visually, and that's what reminds me that I'm never alone, and there are times, I don't have to look back there when I'm going through it. I know when he's carrying me, because I'm like, I know I'm not doing this on my own. This is something bigger than me. So that it took me a while to really focus on what his will was versus mine. That was the hardest thing for me. So in my sequence of events, from getting from there to here, it certainly didn't happen overnight. It was a period of several, multiple years, where I decided that, okay, if I put God first, right? And this was one of our prophets even said this: if you put God first, all things will either fall into their proper place or drop out of your life. And that's really has been true. So a lot of those things that were stopping me and were keeping me from progressing, keeping me from even doing the things that I wanted to do in my own life, came from a choice of, okay, do you what's more important, my spiritual health and well-being, or my temporal physical health, and desires? And once I let go of that physical desire portion of, okay, this isn't happening the way you wanted it to, or in the manner that you wanted it to. You weren't marrying this person. You have to let this person go and out of your life. And once I made that choice, it seemed like things really did start to fall into place, and so things started getting better. Things started looking up. So it really was a matter of giving my will over to Heavenly Father and saying, okay, I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to do the things that I need to do. Because I think there's part of us, even though we get into these little challenges that we go through or whatever, there's a little part of you that knows what you should do. but it's not always the part that you want to do. And sometimes it's really hard to overcome that, because you're thinking to yourself, well, this is the way it worked for everybody else. But we're all unique and we're all different. And, the Lord speaks to us in different ways. He has a different plan for every one of us. But know that there is for me, knowing that there was a plan, and that I just needed to listen a little closer. And so that pausing part was really important, because you can pray and pray and pray. My prayers are, you get this, I get this much time to talk, and then I have to have this much time to listen. And, and in order to do that, you have to be in a place where you can hear it. So it's a meditation type thing, in a quiet place where you can actually feel that spirit. So that was really what led me to here.
Yeah. And, his prayer, the Lord's prayer, says, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. And knowing that his will for you is so much bigger and better than you could ever even imagine. It's not, that song, I can only imagine.
Yes.
So true. And Ephesians 3:20 says he will do exceedingly abundantly above all that we could ever imagine. So, I mean, how crazy I've been in the past, where I was thinking I knew better than he did. And isn't that interesting?
I've done the same thing.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing to know that his plan is perfect. So what I would ask is, what is your advice to someone who may be going through something similar?
Well, I think that one of the best things that ever happened to me was being able to be around like-minded spiritual women. And that was really important. Knowing that I wasn't alone, and also knowing that I wasn't being judged. So that's a huge piece for me, because I spent so much of my life trying to get people to not judge my kid's dad. And then I realized, well, what am I doing with other people? So first I had to let go of judgment of other people. And then it was easier for me to let go of maybe what other people were judging me for, because it didn't matter. But being around women that weren't judging me and just going, hey, we got you, we're holding space for you, was really very powerful. Because it was, I came to your first retreat 2 years after I had made that decision to just let go of those relationships, and prayed that whole time that I would find a place, right, that could give me the same kind of support. Not always necessarily church support, because, not that I'm a different person at church than at home, but you know what I mean? You're in a little more relaxed and comfortable situation. And so for me, it really was finding just a place where I could be myself and be appreciated for that, no matter where I was on the journey. And so for anybody that might be going through what I went through, as far as that goes, what steps did I take? Prayer was a big part of that. Praying, making a decision. I learned so much about the word decision and decide. It means to cut off other possibilities. When you make a decision, it's to cut off other possibilities, decide. And once you make that decision, then the action that follows up with that, then telling that person, and that was an interesting conversation. Hey, guess what? We're not going to do this anymore. This really isn't fitting what I need to do in my life. And then to not be even taken seriously the first time. I was like, no, I meant this. Like, no, right? So it was kind of interesting. But, feeling like your feet are firmly planted was a good place for me to be with that. And then, like I said, just, sharing what my experiences were with other women was very helpful for me, because I, again, found out that I really wasn't alone. I'm not the only one that's kind of gone through this. And that gave me the strength, I think, a lot of times to just keep going. And every one of those women saying, reach out anytime. And they meant it. They truly meant it, because I have reached out, and I was, responded to right away. And what what peace that brings to me, of knowing that I'm just not alone in this.
Right. So finding your tribe, or finding your circle of women that are going to lift you up when you're down, and, like you said, not judge you, but be there to just cheer you on and support you.
And remind me, hey, don't forget you're a child of God. He's got you, things that I know, but for some reason, when you get bombarded, right, with all of these negative things in your mind, how does that one simple thought just escape you? And so when someone can just kind of, like I said, ground you and go, yeah, but remember, you're a child of God. He's got you. Your things are going to happen. It'll be okay. It's going to be okay.
And isn't it interesting when you think about it's about 16 inches from our head to our heart, that you know it in your head, but when you really digest it and feel it in your heart, it's a game changer, because then you're at peace, because you know that he in fact does have you in the palm of his hand, and Absolutely. He is never going to leave you. So where do they start to begin to set themselves free from this? What would you say to other women? Where, and you actually have already said that, get a tribe and actually, circle up with people that are going to speak life into you. Yeah. And is there anything else that you can add to that?
Probably the only other piece I would add to that is service. So I am a person that, they always tell you, or I've always learned, that the best way out of self-pity is service. And when you're serving others, you kind of forget your own, what's going on in your world, because you're focused on them serving someone else. So for me, that was a big part of it as well, was just getting out there and doing something good for somebody else, whether that was taking the canned goods to the picnic or, whatever was going on, just that sense of contributing to someone else's benefit and getting yourself out of your own head. So that was a big part of that for me as well.
Yeah, because to your point, serving is such a blessing.
That's all he did, was serve. His whole mission on this earth was serve. And if I'm going to follow that example, and if I'm going to be Christ-like in the things that I know that I want to be, then that's the example that I have to follow to continue his mission and to serve. So I appreciate you so much in what you're doing, because that just you've taken that to another elevation, to where you're able to serve a whole lot more people than I am. But even my small contribution to what you're doing helps. You can't do this alone, right? So I love that I'm able to contribute just by showing up for you, because you and I together, where we're you meet together, right? I'm there. So because we're doing this together, and that just gave me really cold chills to tell you that. That we are accomplishing those greater purposes and those things that I know that Heavenly Father wanted us to accomplish here. So, and that brings me a lot of peace.
Right. So it's a blessing to bless
others.
And so it's full circle, which is a beautiful thing. So, well, Benita, this has been just amazing. And I'm so grateful for you to be able to come on and just share your heart and your journey of being set free. And so once again, I want to just thank you all for listening to this episode of Setting Yourself Free. Until next time, please go to www.katy-huff.com to learn more about my book, coaching, courses, and retreats. And you definitely would hopefully want to follow Katy Huff Ministries on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for more encouragement and stay up to date on the things happening with Katy Huff Ministries. So with that, I say thank you and have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Hello, friends and family. This is Katy Huff with Katy Huff Ministries. The reason that I'm reaching out to you today is because I have had the incredible experience of using the MyPillow products. So what products are there? There's the pillow, of course. There's the sheets. There's the towels. And in fact, my puppy even has a dog bed. So I'm reaching out to you because I have the opportunity to help you to save a lot of money when you find these products to be such use for you and your family. So you can go to mystore.com/unmasked is my promo code. So you're going to want to use my promo code to get those discounts, or mypillow.com/unmasked. That way you're going to get an incredible discount. You're going to enjoy the sheets, the pillows, the towels, and hopefully your little pet will enjoy the dog bed as well. Thank you.